Seeing Dustin gaining everyone's attention, Cody tightened his fists and clenched his jaw. He was jealous. But most importantly, he was frustrated to have been defeated by someone like Dustin. Dustin was nothing more than a broke loser, and Cody deemed himself way better than him, so why was it that Natasha picked Dustin over him? Don't be disheartened, Cody. He's just a boy toy who only has the looks. Perhaps Ms. Harmon will lose interest in him after playing with him for several days. Harper continued to influence Cody even though her expression also seemed somewhat uneasy. She refused to believe that someone as excellent as Natasha would willingly marry a nobody like Dustin. Others aside, the Duke of Lancashire himself would never approve of them. So she was convinced that they wouldn't last long together. Their relationship was nothing but a short fling. Play. How is Dustin Reese even fit to be played by Ms. Harmon? Cody was still annoyed. Dustin had truly lucked out, even if Natasha only saw him as a plaything. Natasha was third on the beauty ranking. What a waste of a gorgeous lady. Why was he not the one being played instead? Why? What are you doing? A loud voice suddenly boomed at the entrance. The voice was so loud that it scared the attendees, and they collectively looked over. What they saw was a buff young man in military attire striding in menacingly. His gaze was sharp, and he had a formidable presence. The golden shoulder badge on his uniform proved that he was a young general. Natasha's smile faltered when she saw the man. Her brow knitted together, and disgust was evident in her eyes. All the elites who surrounded Dustin quickly scurried away as their expressions changed. They didn't want to be implicated should anything nasty happen. The entire event hall became silent as the man in military uniform made his appearance. Everyone moved aside to make way for him and avoided him like the plague. After all, the young man was hot-tempered and unreasonable. He was known to have severe mood swings. He also had a strong background. It allowed him to throw his temper around without facing any repercussions. Thus, nobody dared to cross him. People normally kept their distance from him to avoid getting into any trouble. Cody, who's that? He looks impressive. Harper was both surprised and curious. The man must be a formidable character to be able to silence the whole event hall. If I'm not mistaken, he should be Dexter Fallon of the Fallon family, Cody remarked as he narrowed his eyes ever so slightly. Dexter Fallon? You mean one of the 4 Chaos Demons? Harper's eyes widened in disbelief. That's right. He's the one. Cody nodded. He dared not even look straight at Dexter and only stole a peek at him out of the corner of his eyes. The Fallons were one of the 4 ancient houses within the city. They were as prestigious as the Ballard family. Plus, they held considerable power and influence. As for Dexter, he was one of the best among the younger generation. Not only did he have the background, he was also exceptionally talented. At a very young age, he was already a 4-star marshal. He had a very promising future ahead. The only problem with him was that he was extremely hot-headed, which often landed him in trouble. He even earned himself the horrible reputation of being called a chaos demon. That's weird. Why would an evil menace like him show up here? He looks fierce and downright scary. He isn't here to raise havoc, is he? Harper cowered in terror. There were 4 chaos demons in Oakvale, each with a reputation worse than the next. Just hearing their names alone was enough to strike fear in most people's hearts. Dexter was one of them. I don't think he's here for that. I heard that he's in love with Ms. Harmon. So he's probably here for her, Cody said thoughtfully. Hang on. A thought suddenly came to Harper as she exclaimed, if Dexter likes Natasha, wouldn't that make Dustin his rival? Hey! Now that you mention it, that does seem to be the case. Cody was quick to react, no longer looking so down. Knowing Dexter, he'd never allow someone to get close to a woman he has his eyes on. Which means that the rascal, Dustin, is about to get into some serious trouble today. Huh. He had that coming. Harper huffed, crossing her arms smugly. That's for wanting something he doesn't deserve. How dare he get close to Ms. Harmon when he's incapable of anything? This is his punishment. I'd like to see how he's going to deal with this. I knew it. How could such a loser get away with such a bombshell? He's got such a great rival now. Let's see if he'll be able to handle it. Cody wore a nasty grin, looking ready to enjoy a show. If he wasn't able to get her, then Dustin could only dream on. Natasha, who's this rascal? Dexter walked in with long strides, his gaze fixed venomously on Dustin. He had seen everything that had happened between Dustin and Natasha, how intimate and passionately they had behaved. It went without saying that he was not the least bit pleased about having a love rival crop up so suddenly. Who he is has got nothing to do with you, Natasha exclaimed coldly, not in the mood to entertain him. I heard everything that you said. So he's your boy toy, isn't he? Dexter demanded. I'll repeat myself one last time. It's got nothing to do with you. Natasha looked at him in disgust. She had had many suitors, but Dexter was the type she hated the most. He was domineering, unreasonable, and had an inflated ego. He seemed to think that all the women in the world should revolve around him, that he was the center of the universe. Dexter was simply irritating. What do you mean it's got nothing to do with me? You're the woman I've got my eyes on, so you can only be with me. No other men are good enough for you, Dexter declared firmly. And who do you think you are? Natasha huffed. You're all brawns with no brains, and that makes you no better than a gorilla. Who would want to be with someone like you? You dash. Dexter raised his hand midair, ready to strike Natasha. However, he forced back the urge to do so. Never had a woman ever dared to speak to him like that. Had he not had his considerations, he'd have had his way with her. Hey, rascal. Who are you to snatch my woman away from me? Do you wish to meet your maker so soon? Dexter turned to Dustin and glared at him fiercely. He could not get rough with Natasha, but it would be easy for him to deal with a little boy toy. As long as he wasn't royalty or part of the 4 ancient houses, Dexter could do anything he liked to him. It's common courtesy to tell the other party your name before asking for theirs, Dustin said casually. You want to know who I am? Fine. I'll tell you. Dexter shot him a vicious glare before saying, Now, listen up, and listen well. I am Dexter Fallon of the Fallon family, one of the 4 ancient houses. I'm a 4-star marshal, and they call me the Black Tornado. Oh, so what? Dustin responded impassively. So what? Dexter was taken aback. He hadn't expected such an answer from Dustin. Regular people would have gone weak in the knees when they heard about him. But this rascal wasn't the least bit affected. He started to wonder if he wasn't clear enough. Hey, rascal, don't you know the Fallon family, one of the 4 ancient houses? Dexter narrowed his eyes on him. I do. Dustin nodded. Then do you not know the power of a 4-star marshal? Dexter pressed on. I do. Dustin nodded yet again. Well, since you know of my identity and my powers, why aren't you afraid of me? Dexter asked exasperatedly. Why should I? Dustin answered calmly. You're nothing but a spoiled and arrogant brat who takes advantage of your social status and power to mistreat others. Why should I be afraid of you? An uproar broke out among the guests. Damn. Has he gone out of his mind? How dare he openly provoke Dexter? Does he have a death wish? He's too young to know what's good for him. He really is seeking death to offend the Chaos Demon. When Dexter flies into a rage, there is bound to be bloodshed. The young man's done for. Everyone was shocked by the sudden turn of events. None of them had expected Dustin to be so bold as to openly insult Dexter without a care in the world. After all, Dexter was a chaos demon who planted fear in people's hearts. He wasn't one to be messed with. Anyone who had ever crossed Dexter either ended up dead or severely harmed. None of them ever ended up well. People usually stayed as far away from him as possible. But now, Dustin had actively gone and offended him. Wasn't he out to make life difficult for himself? What an insolent bastard. How dare he challenge Dexter? He's truly done for now. Cody and Harper snickered coldly, gloating at the misfortune that was about to befall Dustin.